10 real estate investing rules of thumb you must know. You have the 20% rule, cash flow, the 1% rule, and if you stay to the end, you're gonna know them all. These are some simple shortcuts that help you analyze real estate deals so you know what's a good deal and what's not a good deal very quickly. When analyzing deals, there's certain rules of thumb that help you really understand the gist of the whole entire property and the whole entire income, and you know not to buy some deals or to buy some deals. I'm Rob Bluefin. In this video, I'm going to break down the 10 rules of thumb of analyzing real estate for you. So when it comes to shortcuts to analyzing deals, the best thing that you could do is smash that like button so you let everyone know that you're here to analyze some deals and make money in real estate this year. So sometimes if you don't know these rules, it might stop you from buying a deal, or worse, you might buy the wrong deal, or even worse, you might not buy a deal at all. Instead of watching 10 hours of YouTube content, trying to search different rules of thumb and help, I'm here to just condense it all in one video, and you'll be able to just get this video, save it, and have it there as your rule of thumb when you're looking at new properties. So the first rule of thumb we have is the 20% rule. What the 20% rule says is that you should get a property at least 20% discount of the value. So if there's a property listed on the market for $100,000, you should at least be buying that property for $80,000 as an investment. And just because it's listed at $100,000 does not mean that's the value. So you really have to do your research and make sure that that's the value, or you can ask an appraiser to do an appraisal for you to come up with the value. Or a little shortcut ninja trick I like to use is I try to reach out to a broker or an agent in that area, and you can pay them $100 and they'll give you their value opinion, which honestly is just as good as a paid appraisal. The second rule is the vacancy rule of 5%. So when looking at a rental property, you have to calculate at least 5%, depending on the area, but at least 5% of vacancy expense. What vacancy expense means is that if you have a rental property, it's not gonna be rented every minute, every day, you always have it. There's gonna be some vacancy. If a tenant moves out, it might take you 2 or 3 weeks to put a new tenant in there, so you have to calculate for that. And the banks, the lowest they'll calculate is typically about 5%, and they go all the way up to 20%. So, but just to be safe, I would do from 5 to 7% vacancy. And the way to do that is you just get the gross income, let's say it's $1,000 a month times 5%, and there you have your vacancy rate. Loan to value is the next rule of thumb, and the percentages we use for that is 60 to 80%. What this says is that banks will loan 60 to 80% of the value of the property. So how this works is if the property is worth $100,000, they will lend you anywhere between $60,000 to $80,000, meaning you'd have to put 20 to 40% down. The reason banks do this is that if they have to take your property back because you stop paying or I stop paying, they need to make sure that they have a decent deal and they didn't overpay for the property so they can break even or not lose any money. Another really important rule of thumb is if you're looking to do the BRR strategy or use financing to buy rental properties is the debt coverage ratio. Now, the number that the banks typically use is about 1.3 or more debt coverage ratio. Really what that is that they get the net operating income, so the net income that your rental property makes, and they divide it by the annual debt service, so the monthly payments times 12. And what this does is that it gives the bank comfort knowing that, okay, after the mortgage, you make enough net income to support this property. If the property rents for $1,000 a month and your payment's $400 a month, so $600 left over, after expenses, there's really like $300 left over, okay, that meets the ratio. But if it's too tight, if the property's rented for $1,000 a month and your payment's $700 plus expenses, you're really gonna be breaking even, and the bank doesn't like deals that someone's really close to break even. Rule of thumb of the capitalization rate, or also better known, AKA as the cap rate. So what the cap rate is really just the net operating income, which is the net income of rent after expenses, divided by the value of the home. Now, people have different opinions on what is a good cap rate, what is not a good cap rate. In a good area, so the rule of thumb we use to buy our rentals, and we've purchased about 30 rentals at this point, between single family homes to fourplexes, and all of them have done great. We've been able to finance all of them. So some of the rules of thumb I use is at minimum an 8% cap rate after expenses, okay? If that's in a good area. If you're in more of like a C area, I'd probably go over 10 to 12% cap rate, but really it's all preference. I would not consider buying anything under an 8% cap rate. The cash flow rule of thumb. So what I mean by cash flow is for rental property specifically. So if you're looking to buy your next rental property, this should be a rule of thumb you implement before you make an offer. How much is your lowest acceptable that you're willing to make on a rental property? So for me, when I'm looking to buy rental properties, I want each property to make me at least $450 net per door after expenses. So if the property rents for $2,000 a month, after paying the mortgage, after paying taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy, all the other expenses, I want to net to my bank account $450 a month or more. If not, I will not purchase that property. That's the rule we've used, but you can come up with your own rule. Rule of thumb of cash on cash return. What does this mean? So sometimes when you go and flip a house, whether you're gonna fix and flip it, or even if you're gonna rent it, you're not gonna buy this property all cash most of the time. A lot of times you're gonna use financing. So there is what's called a cash on cash return, which is how much cash did you put into the deal and how much money did you make back? What is that percentage? So for example, if you're gonna fix and flip a home and you're gonna get a private money or a hard money loan or any loan, let's say that you put 20% down. Let's just say this house is $200,000. So that means that you put $40,000. Let's say then you put another $20,000 in renovations. So that's $60,000 of your own cash. Now let's say that you make $40,000 when everything is said and done after you sell it. So your cash on cash return is pretty high. So you make about 67% return on your cash, okay? So that is one rule of thumb of cash on cash return. So, but if you think about it, the house cost $200 and there was more cash being put in. All you put was $60, but there was a lender and everything. It doesn't matter. Really what you're looking for is cash on cash return. The same goes for a rental. If you were to buy that same rental, it's a $200,000 house, you put 20% down, which is $40,000. You put another $20,000 for repairs at $60,000. And let's say you make $500 a month, that produces a 10% return on your cash. Sorry, I had a little brain fart, I had to calculate here for you. What we look for is at least a 15% or more cash on cash return when we do a flip. And for a rental, we look for at least a 20% cash on cash return after we do a refinance. If you want to learn a little bit more, I go in depth on a deal that we did a refinance and how much we made exactly. I'll link that video below. It's a house that we did in Daytona Beach, Florida. The 1% rule of thumb basically just says if the house is worth $100,000, it rents for $1,000 a month. The house costs $200,000, it rents for $2,000 a month. 1% rule. It's a very simple rule to follow when you're really looking at deals over the top online on Zillow, and you see a house is listed for $180 in your area, and you're trying to determine if it's even worth your time. This is probably the best rule I use to quickly analyze if this deal's worth more time or not. So if I'm shopping on Zillow or Realtor.com and I see a property that's for sale for $180, I'll quickly just click for rent. And if properties are renting for $1,800, I'll look at that property a little bit deeper and possibly make an offer. And rule of thumb on unit mixes. There's really 5 types of units that are really important on the residential side for you to know. And that is studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 4 bedrooms. So just knowing that as you're looking at properties, whether it's a duplex, a triplex, fourplex, or maybe even 20, 30, 100 units, just know that there's a unit mix rule of thumb. And what that means is that you'll see it sometimes on the ad, okay, it's a duplex, one side's a studio and the other side's a 1-1. So you have to know studio is basically 0 bedrooms. It's just, an open space with a kitchen. And then you have 1 bedroom, and then 2 twos and things like that. So just knowing and being aware of that helps you analyze deals a lot better because each of them have certain rent amounts. Obviously studios rent for the least amount, up to 4 bedrooms rent for the most. So if you know those ranges, it'll help you analyze your deal a lot quicker and more efficiently.
7 hours later.
And we have rule number 10, the 50% rule for expenses for your rental property. What this rule means is that if your property is rented for $2,000, that means that about $1,000 goes out in expenses between maintenance, vacancy, electricity, water, if you're paying for that. And that is not excluding a mortgage. So now with that rule, it's very simple to know, okay, house rents for $2,000, $1,000 goes down the drain every month in expenses, and minus your mortgage, let's say your mortgage is $400, so you will keep $600 a month on that rental property. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you take these 10 rules of thumb for good and use it to make your good offer on your next investment property. And I want to hear about your success. If these rules helped you analyze deals or the next deal you buy, please post it on the comments, and I would love to hear about some of the things you're working on. Thank you guys, and until next time.